Welcome to the BNB Investing Podcast for real estate investors. Fix and flippers and realtors exploring investment options with Airbnbs and short-term rentals through acquisition, leasing, or management to generate consistent monthly revenue. Join us for a chat with experienced and successful short-term rental investors to hear their story of how they got started and created wealth by building scalable businesses. We also explore various service providers and lenders that help make our businesses more efficient and maximize revenue in this awesome sharing economy. Welcome your host, Rich Monroe.
Hey everyone, Rich Monroe here with BNB Investing. Thanks for jumping on. As usual, BNB Investing Group helps investors navigate whether you're doing acquisitions, the rental arbitrage model, or managing properties. And today I've got Ashley Durmo here from Chalet that we're going to chat about what those guys do and how they help investors look at different markets. And I'm kind of excited to get to learn more about this because it is something that I'm looking to get assistance with in my business. So Ashley, thanks so much for jumping on. And let's start out with just kind of giving us a quick overview of how you got started in the short-term rental space.
Sure. So I got started with a house hack. My first house I ever bought with my husband was our primary residence. It was in Denver, Colorado. And interestingly enough, we didn't have a lock-off unit. It was our full property. And I was a traveling sales lady. So I was gone 75% of the time during weekdays. And my husband was a remote worker. And so he'd come with me. And I covered Western US and Western Canada. And so I went to some cool places and he would come with me and we'd rent out our place when we weren't there. I would never do that now. It's a lot, you know, like it's a lot. You have to get rid of everything that's personal about yourself, every family photo. And yeah, it's hard, but we did it. It was a pretty extreme example of jumping into this world. And then the other thing is I've been a consumer on the guest side since day one. I think just my age, my generation, the timing Airbnb came about, we got it from the beginning. All my friends, my generation were like, this is awesome. This is way better than a hotel. I get more value from it. I enjoy cooking. That's probably the biggest thing. And so there was this mix of like real estate, like short-term rentals, and then COVID hit. And my husband had an autoimmune disorder. I was a traveling sales lady, traveling all the time. And it just was this period for a lot of people of a big change, a big shift. And I realized I don't want to be a traveling sales lady anymore. That's exhausting and I need to help take care of my husband and I want to do my own thing. And so we put our minds together and came up with the concept of getting into the short-term rental industry, but not necessarily as property managers, as building up our own portfolio super fast. Like that wasn't the goal for us. The goal for us was we wanted to be a part of it in a more technology capacity because that's our background. So my husband is a programmer. He's a software architect. And then I've been in like SaaS sales and technology my whole career. And so anyway, we had no idea what we were doing. And we did a lot of research and we had time because it was COVID and my husband had an autoimmune disorder. So we couldn't hang out with people. And we just cobbled together the initial concept of Chalet. And now there's been a lot of iterations, but the whole mission really has been the same since day one. And it is to help people get into the short-term rental industry and just make it easier for them. There's a lot of wealth in real estate, right? And there's a lot of secrets and there's a lot of tips and there's a lot of insider knowledge. And being an outsider coming in and even thinking of ourselves as like tech savvy, smart, good researchers, we just stumbled a lot. Yeah. And so it was like, okay, how can we help people stumble less when they're getting into this and share the information we learn and not try to be the guru. We never wanted to be the make money quick, quit your job. Like scale to 1 million properties. It was more for the everyday people who were working a corporate job, or, my husband's an immigrant. It's like this concept of, hey, you could do it too. It's not as crazy as you think. And here are some resources to help you in that process.
Okay.
So that's really the initial concept of Chalet.
Very cool. So what is it that Chalet does?
Yeah, good question. So it goes into that mission of we provide resources, tools, and vendors all along the way, from idea inception, I want to invest, to like, okay, I want to pick a market. We have tools and resources that help people analyze markets, pick markets. And then from there, it's okay, I'm ready to potentially launch, or I'm analyzing a couple markets seriously. Okay, what does that mean for that next step, right? How are you going through that? And a big thing is going to be the vendors you use, your realtors. If you're going to be using a property manager, when do you get them involved? What questions do you ask them? For your realtor, you don't want to be working with someone who focuses on primary residences. You want to work with a short-term rental specialist. How do you get to those people?
Yeah.
So that's where we jump in. I would say, have the largest network of short-term rental focused realtors in the country. And it's blood, sweat, and tears to get those people. This is not like they come to us and we have an advertising model. We truly refer people to them, no cost. They're experts in short-term rentals. Most of them are investors themselves.
Yeah.
And the concept is, again, here are some tools to help you pick a market. Now you've picked a market. Now you have to work with a realtor anyway, so you might as well work with an expert. Okay, next step. Now you need to start thinking, are you managing yourself, or are you hiring a property manager? Those are two different tracks. You want to talk about it? And so we've been a part of that. We'll hook you up with tools. We'll hook you up with the resources. We'll hook you up with the contacts along the way. So that's really the whole goal in what we're doing. And that's the service we provide. But the catch that is not really catch, it's just surprising for people, is we don't charge anything.
Right.
So how we make our money, we are a brokerage. Our brokerage is based out of Texas, but we created this brokerage so we can refer people, investors, to agents. And that allows us, because we're a brokerage, you can only do this from like an agent to an agent, brokerage to brokerage. We can take a referral fee from the agent. So let's say, Rich, you wanted to buy in Fort Lauderdale. I'd be like, okay, no problem. I'll get you connected with my realtor. She specializes in short-term rentals. She's awesome. She's based out of Fort Lauderdale. I send an intro email. There's no cost.
Right.
If you end up buying with her, I get a percentage of her commission she was already going to make off of selling you the property.
That makes sense.
It does, but it's always like, people are like, how do you make money? How do you make money? Right? Because I think there's like, when are you taking my credit card information? Maybe one day, but not today. And that's the same way with like, if you were to, I don't know, we'd recommend like, oh, check out Turno. If you're looking for a cleaning service, consider using our affiliate link, right? We thought through a lot of tools and resources, and we'll either directly connect you with a vendor, like a realtor, like a property manager, like a CPA, cost segregation specialist, someone like that. Or we'll be like, hey, consider using these landlord insurance companies. They're really solid. And if you're going to use them, use our affiliate link to sign up. So there's no contract. You don't have to use anyone we pair you with. You don't have to do anything. It's just, we ask, kind of like, we're providing value to you. Why wouldn't you consider using our partners?
Yeah. Love it. No, I think the big value, and you obviously already recognize this. I work a lot with real estate agents, being an investor. And I also do a 3-hour continuing education class for real estate agents, because honestly, the masses of realtors out there don't really understand short-term rentals. They can't wrap their head around it. They know long-term rentals to a certain extent, but anytime they have clients that ask about short-term rentals or want to have a conversation about it, most realtors just don't really have a clue. So the fact that you guys have kind of identified the folks that specialize in short-term rentals that are realtors, I think that's a huge value add for us as investors to be able to not do that legwork. I mean, if I want to start investing in Tampa, Florida, I've got to go Google and call 20 different real estate agents and find maybe one or two of them that even have any inkling about short-term rentals. So I think that's a huge save timer for folks that are starting out and looking for investment opportunities. Now, are you also actively doing real estate as a brokerage firm in Texas, or are you kind of focused on this as the main piece?
No, so we're licensed, but we got into this because I told you we're both corporate America people. We got into this as outsiders,
for the purpose of that.
This is our niche. We help short-term rental investors who are looking to buy in whatever market, and we're not in every single market, right? We're not in like the niches of, I don't know, South Dakota. But if you're serious enough, it's one of those things where, hey, we'll find a realtor for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's really the concept in our business model and why we got into it. And we're just very transparent. But being a brokerage allows us to do this with realtors. It is illegal to do like a referral fee kickback unless you're a realtor and a brokerage. And it's very common, like it's very widely accepted within real estate, and nobody loses. It's like if someone was going to make 2% or 3% on selling you a property, and we're taking a percentage of that 2 to 3%, it doesn't change how you negotiate with that realtor. It's literally just something we have contractually with that realtor. And so anyway, it's really, I say all of this as I think people are kind of like, but wait, what? How do you make money? And really, it's truly that. Like there's not a catch. There's not again, like, when is this going to bite me in the butt? It's not. You don't have to use our people. We hope you do. And if you do, we get paid from them.
Cool. So how localized are the options, right? So if I'm interested in Bradenton, Florida, for example, do you typically have somebody that's maybe in Clearwater or Sarasota that has that surrounding area?
Yeah. So that's interesting because Bradenton has come up recently, and we're adding someone specifically in there. We have 2 realtors in Clearwater and that whole region. We've got realtors all over Florida. Florida's always been like a hot spot. And so again, it's kind of like, if we don't, we'll just be open. We'll be like, hey, we don't have a realtor. We have a realtor in Clearwater, right? But you want to be in this region, like, is it okay? Give us like a couple days. We'll find someone for you. So that's the concept on that. And to really bring it back to like, why is it important to not work with Joe primary residence selling realtor versus Bob, who's the short-term rental specialist? Like, I think anyone who's been in this field, even for a bit, it's niche. It's not the same as a long-term rental. There's completely different data points you need to look at. The way you analyze neighborhoods is completely different. I mean, the furnishings, right? And thinking through cap rate, cash on cash, and how that goes into renovations for a property. There's so many little things. It's so gamified. And you want someone who gets that. You don't want someone who's like, oh, this is a great school district. I'm trying to rent a short-term rental. I do not care about the school district, you know? And it's always surprising to me because every now and then I'll talk to someone who wants a property manager and they had just closed, and it's like they just didn't have that knowledge and that support. I had this lady who was listing with a realtor who was a friend, and this person had no idea how to sell and market her fully furnished short-term rental. It's a business, and you just have to treat it differently. And so the concept is you want someone who understands neighborhoods. You want someone who understands how to ask the right questions, how to look in detail at the HOA documents, to direct you to parts of town that it's not legal, right? Because it can be a mix up depending on the municipalities versus the county. You want someone who's potentially invested themselves. What's better information than someone who's real time doing it? You want seasonality. And this is the other thing, and that's kind of what I want to get in today, is going beyond the data. There's so many great tools, data providers. We offer data. I'll show that piece of the site. But that's looking at the past. Also, like, what's coming, right? So what are the projects that haven't been developed yet that are coming out in 2 years? What is the major hospital expansion? What is the new theme park that's going in? What is the redevelopment plan for this previously kind of like not great part of town? And this is where I get all these nuggets of gold, because I work with all these realtors and they tell me these things, and they get short-term rentals and they're like, hey, there's this new Universal Studios being built in this subdivision. You should think about that, right? So anyway, just to give you high level, and me talking to investors and talking to realtors and being so niche within that relationship particularly, there is a ton of value that you can get from working with someone who actually understands the short-term rental world. And there are other things you should consider outside of the obvious back-looking data and like the articles that say, hey, this is the best market, right? Like, there are other things to think about, and you can get that information a lot of times through really good partnerships, realtors. Long-winded, I'll pause, but yeah, that's
that's golden, because I mean, like you say, when you're doing your market analysis and you're doing an acquisition and you're looking at your numbers, that's great that, you know, the 12-month average nightly rate on this 3-bedroom was $250. But, you know, we all know, and I've been around doing this for 9 years, there's been a lot of changes in the market and different markets and nightly rates and occupancy levels, and it'll go up and down by 20, 30% in either direction. And that 20% move can definitely impact your profitability and waive your decision on that acquisitions that you're trying to do. So to understand, more importantly, to your point, you know, what's the future looking like? What are some of the influences in that area that are going to directly impact positively or negatively those nightly rates is priceless, right? I mean, in terms of from an investment strategy, you don't want to buy something and then find out 9 months later that, oh, by the way, there's going to be, you know, this big garbage center that's going to be 2 subdivisions down, or some, you know, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Right. So for those of you jumping on, feel free to throw out any questions in the comments. Like Ashley said, we're going to actually take a look at her site, and she's going to walk us through some of the tools that they have available to help with your looking at different markets and helping strategically with the different realtors. So let's talk a little bit about the market analysis piece. And so, you know, obviously, like you mentioned, there's tools that are out there that we all know about, that we all use. Are you guys kind of consolidating that information, or what are you doing there?
Yeah, if you can pull up my screen share, and I'll walk you through some tools we have.
All right, perfect.
So this is our site, getchalet.com. And that's me talking about exactly what I'm talking about now. So you don't need to watch that. If you jump into this, save yourself some time. If you jump into this Chalet Intel piece, we have some markets here, and we have data information on these markets. I don't know if I'm logged in or not. Let me log in. Okay, cool. So you'll need to create an account if you want to dig into this information. But these are all data pieces, and we go into specific markets and really give you a detailed analysis of what's going on in that market. You can see we go beyond just.
And guys, I know a lot of you might be watching this on your phone. Feel free to watch the replay on the group later, so you can see the bigger screen, because as well as, obviously, I'm going to put her website in the comments as well, so you guys can check that out directly. Yeah,
so essentially, we call it like an investor guide and a market insight. It's a deeper picture into a specific market. We have bedroom counts and how many total active STRs by bedroom count. We have property tax. We have Zillow home value. So it goes beyond just the freemium version of what you can get on a lot of sites. And we're not trying to be the most amazing data provider in the industry. We're not making money on this. This is free, right? So I encourage you guys as an opportunity to start investigating markets high level. This is a great tool. We also have a spreadsheet where we break down this stuff, and that's good for, I want a high level look at markets that are the concept is we don't put markets in there that aren't at least to some extent short-term rental friendly, right? So high level, I want to look at all the Florida markets, and it also has the budget, right? The average home price. That's a huge indicator of if a market's a good fit for you or not. And I want to look at how they're performing. And I want to narrow it down to beach markets in Florida, the top performing ones that fit my budget of $500,000, right? So we have some tools that I think are really good from a high level zoom out to compare different markets, and they're free. And we're coming out with a brand new calculator that's going to be really cool. So we're in the process of revamping this. And again, it's all here. It's easy to digest. It's free. Check it out. Like, spend some time here. It's a great place to start if you're investigating different markets. And there are some interesting insights that maybe you wouldn't have initially thought about, right? The unemployment rate. How is that gonna, like, how is the economy of this market doing, right? How did it get through COVID? Like, it's all different pieces that you want to have a zoom out look on, like saturation rate. I mean, that's a huge one. Is a market oversaturated? We're running into that a lot with different markets. And if it's the best market now, will it continue to be the best market, or will it become saturated, right? So anyway, it's a great place to start when you're just investigating different markets. We also have the Excel spreadsheet, which I can send to anyone who wants it. That's more of this, and like the Excel, it's just the same thing kind of in an Excel format, less components. But again, these are the tools you use. Zone out, look at what is my buy box? What am I looking for? What are these markets I want to start investigating in? And then once you pick a market, a couple markets, now it's time to do more detailed work. And there's various tools that you can use for that. I mean, we have investor guides which go pretty in depth on specific markets. You're going to want to look at the regulations in depth. You're going to want to read, you can read our article. You're also going to want to fact check that with the latest regulation information. You're going to want to read these investor guides, and then reach out to us if you want to be connected with a realtor. We've got you. And from there, that's when you can really ask those questions. And I encourage you to ask these questions like, okay, you understand short-term rentals. How is your market doing? What are you seeing? Is it saturated? What does that mean, right? Like, what neighborhoods are you seeing that are doing well? Are there any big hospital developments or tourism developments coming in regionally? Do you see any regulation changes that are being talked about at that government level? These are all things when you're working with that realtor, that step is very important, is to not just understand the market from like, oh, Chalet said it was the 4th best market in the United States. You want to dig in and understand, like, what is the overall health of that market? What are the regulations looking like? What developments are coming in? And again, the realtor a lot of times can be an amazing help asset for that piece of it.
Nice. Can you go back, Ashley, to that screen that showed the different markets with some of the stats on there?
Yeah.
Like the summary. So
Yeah.
so your main measurement you're looking at here is gross yield.
Yeah.
And so how are you calculating that?
Revenue.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's against the average or median home price is how we're calculating that, and the average rental revenue numbers for the market as a whole. And I also, people will ask me, they're like, Detroit's rated really high as a market. are people traveling to Detroit? And this is what I have to say and what I've seen in the industry. And
because you can get a $12,000 shotgun house in Detroit and rent it out for $60 a night.
Exactly. So you have, and this is why I'm like, go beyond the data, right? If the average home price in Detroit is less than $100,000, but we all know what happened in Detroit, you know?
Yeah.
There was a mass migration out of Detroit. So you have a lot of homes that are sitting vacant. And so it's the cost of acquisition is cheaper, but that doesn't mean that the homes in the best parts of town that would do well as an Airbnb in Detroit are going to be less than $100,000.
Yeah. So this is really looking at a macro level. So you have to peel back the onion and kind of dig in before you make any decisions on it.
Yes.
Is this sortable by highest gross yield or no?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So,
there you go.
I see what you mean. So Detroit is 32%. Of course it is.
Yeah, exactly. Of course it is. But guess how many people that I've talked to, different investors that we've met with, seeing this, like no one's asked for a realtor in Detroit. So
Yeah. Right. Savannah's a good one. Although Savannah does have some pretty strict regulations in their historic district, which does drive some of that. But they have, you have the option to go to the outskirts. Can you scroll down a little bit while we're at? We can just kind of take a quick look. So you got Memphis, Tennessee. You got South Haven, Michigan, New Orleans, Corpus Christi, Texas. Okay.
I think something interesting, like touching on regulations and, Rich, the conversation we were having before, like New Orleans just had a really interesting regulation shift. I was just talking to a realtor in Asheville yesterday, and they've gone through some big regulation changes. Like that is a moving thing. I think there's also an opportunistic place to live in regulations and to like understand the game that is regulations.
Yeah.
And to stay abreast on that information. Like you may have thought, because a while ago, New Orleans basically said you can't have a short-term rental unless I think it's like a primary residence or in the business district, but
they deemed that unconstitutional.
Exactly. But you in your mind, when you're associating that with, you can't have a property there. So here are some different markets that we have listed up here. There are more markets. You can search for different markets. We don't have every market, but it's, again, a tool that's just here. It's free. It's on our site. It's available for anybody. You just have to sign up and create an account, and you can dig into this information. If you find errors, if you find anything, or maybe there's a location that you really want access to, like just let us know. We're here for investors, right? That's how we get better.
Very cool. So what happens when you click on the Connect with Airbnb Realtor button?
So you go through this form submission process.
Okay.
And it's real simple. I feel like people sometimes get turned off with forms, and you should. We just ask you a couple questions, and there's no catch. It's like you get an introduction to a realtor who specializes in short-term rentals, or we tell you we don't have a realtor in that market yet. And we see how serious you are, and then we get you connected, right? So anyway, it's just a couple questions. It allows us to then get your information. We ask, what's your budget? Budget's crucial, right? We ask a couple questions. And then from there, we call it like there's an ASAP lead, and there's also the opportunity, if you have a higher budget and you want to chat with me, right? And I typically recommend that for people who are long-term rental investors who are shifting to short-term rental, and they're pretty serious. Like we can have a one-on-one discussion and go over some of these things. That is an option to schedule a call with us on our Calendly. But a lot of the time, like if you just want a quick introduction to our go-to realtor, if you want our go-to cost segregation specialist, we just have forms on our website that you can go through and then be connected with those people.
Very cool. Okay. So we do have a few questions here. Well, at least one. Let me throw it up on the screen here. So Suzanne is asking, how different is that from AirDNA or the like? I've just answered it, but I don't know that we covered that in any detail.
Yeah, so it's similar. It's the same concept. You're looking, the way I understand, I'm not a programmer, but this is how I understand these companies to work. You're basically analyzing calendar information on listings on Airbnb, and that allows you to see, like, okay, when I scraped, it's called scraping the website. When I scraped the website yesterday, this property had availability from this day to this day at an average of $200 a night. Well, it's no longer available for those 4 days. I'm assuming it got booked at $200 a night for those 4 days. So that's why this stuff isn't a perfect science, because if you're just blocking off days on your calendar, let's say you have a plumbing issue and you blocked off some days, Airbnb and the way they're scraping, it doesn't know the difference between these nuances, right? All these providers or data providers are getting really good at understanding and projecting revenue. And how you do that, they're kind of focusing on these properties that are full-time rentals all the time. And as opposed to like someone's renting it out for once a month every year in the summer when it's peak season, and then they're blocking it off, right? Like that's not a good data set. Yeah. So long story short, I'm just going a bit into how the data works. We do something similar to AirDNA. The difference is this is free. So like to get the bedroom count, to get some of these little nuggets of wisdom, you have to pay.
Okay, cool. So Suzanne is also asking, can we show an example of a market like Port St. Joe in Florida? Do you have that one? Do you know, or
I honestly don't think we do. Where is Port St.? No, where is that near?
It's like right in the armpit of the Gulf of the Panhandle.
What is like the biggest market near it?
So it's near, I believe, St. Augustine, I think, near Panama City. Yeah, she's answering it for us.
There you go. Yeah, so that's the thing. We don't have like AirDNA. You can get into micro like submarkets. Yeah. You have to pay. So that's literally the big thing is that. So this is just free information for you. You don't have to pay, but we're giving you a lot of the same value that they're giving you. And that's not to discourage AirDNA. Like they're a good company. It's not in competition. Like their business model is, they're trying to make money off of that subscription. So if you want like an extremely detailed analysis, right? You should.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Ashley, this is really just a starting point, right? It's like, I've got a clean slate. I don't want to throw a dart. I want to have some sort of direction to get started on doing my research. And so these tools are really there to kind of help lean you with the footnote and the disclaimer. Don't go to Detroit, Michigan because the numbers look good, good yield. You got to have to put in some logic behind it.
Is that, right? Like there's so many little nuggets that you want to dig into and understand before you really dive into a market. Yeah. And it's just understanding also, how does that fit in with your buy box? Like, I don't want to do any renovations. I want a fully furnished short-term rental. You're probably going to find more of those in Florida than in like Lake Michigan. I just had an investor there, and there's not much going on in Lake Michigan, Yeah. So you have to think about your buy box in relation to this stuff too. Detroit, if you want to remodel something, like could be great for you.
I think it's important because a lot of people do it backwards, right? So you might think randomly, I've heard good things about Kennesaw, Georgia, right? Let me go look at some properties. Let me see what they're selling them for. Well, hey, it's better to actually talk to someone that's got the local knowledge. The city of Kennesaw may have a strict regulation. You don't want to start looking at properties that have HOAs. So a better starting point is, hey, let me talk to an agent that specializes in short-term rentals in Kennesaw. They already know the lay of the land. They can tell me right away, oh, yeah, there's no regulations. Oh, yeah, there's regulations, and this is how they work. and these are the areas that they're in. So you can kind of get a lay of the land so that you're not really starting in the dark, really. So I think what you put together makes perfect logical sense in terms of the best starting point when you're looking where to invest, right? So that's awesome.
We also have this on here. If you can pull up my screen again.
Yep.
So this is, we just call it the deal analyzer. We're in the process of just adding this again with that new calculator tool. Again, a lot of people have to pay for these calculator tools. We're going to offer this all for free. So you want to think through these things. They're so important as far as like, what is your threshold for paying for renovations? Another question I highly encourage you guys to ask and think about when you're looking at markets and talking to realtors is, what does the home insurance situation look like?
Yeah.
What is the cost going to be there?
That's big in Florida right now. Yeah.
It's honestly, it's big all over the United States. Like it's an issue. A lot, New Orleans, right? Like, but even I was listening to this podcast and it was definitely over 10 states. Like, insurance companies are not making money in for covering homeowners. And I think it was like 13 or 18 or something. But anyway, I digress. So the concept is, this isn't a Florida thing. This is something you guys should think about, right? When you're looking at these properties, and are you comfortable with renovations, right? Like, how much do you want to do in this? We have a contact that essentially they're a consultant and you can fully pay them. They're experts. They're amazing. They have brought like over 100 properties to market, and you can pay them to do all the work for you. Find a property, hook you up with all the resources you need, underwrite it, tell you exactly how to go about furnishing it, like the whole thing. So it's this combination of really digging into a market and understanding it, but being realistic with yourself and using the right tools and resources for the reality of who you are, right? And how to get the most out of that. And definitely a realtor is a great person to involve in this. Ask them, hey, I'm interested in this coastal Florida property. Talk to me about home insurance in the region, because it's not the same. Like, Miami is having a bigger struggle than the Palm Coast, right? So it's not all the same. So you can really lean on your realtor for a lot of these really good information pieces, and look at it more holistically. Like, don't go look at properties and then be first. Like, you're going to want to think really through this to not waste your time.
Yeah, totally agree. So how do we, if we're interested, how do we get access to the deal analyzer calculator?
So I'm going to show another thing. Okay. That's right here. All right. So we have this resource hub, and anyone who wants it, I am happy to share it. And this is just a bunch of resources that are helpful. So how to compare markets, Chalet's top market. We even have AirDNA in here, investor guides. And we're in the process of revamping this. And like, I haven't even added the analyze piece because that's a new piece to our website. Deal analyzer. We have John Bianchi is one of our partners. He offers a service where if you're very serious about a property, he will essentially analyze it for you. So let's say you're trying to decide between 3 properties. Well, he can do a very detailed analysis, and he's a pro at this, to tell you, like, give you some support as to your decision. Do these numbers make sense or not? You know, I can send this to anyone. This is a free tool. We essentially call out some different partners we have, some concepts you should look into, some self-management resources. And it's a good consolidation of some of our top tools. Just reach out to me. We're going to share my contact info after this, and I'm happy to share all of it.
Awesome. Very cool. So Ashley, thanks so much. I did put your email address in the comments already. So those of you watching the replay, feel free to to get Ashley's email address if you're interested to get more access to those resources. Ashley, this has been super informative. Really appreciate it. Definitely going to be reaching out soon, and I've got a couple of different markets in mind to get started, and look forward to getting some good introductions to folks that are experts in short-term rentals in their markets.
Yeah, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And reach out. Anybody, it's free. Why not? Happy to chat.
Absolutely. Most definitely. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in this week. Again, B&B Investing Group, we help investors kind of navigate. If you're ready to kind of scale a short-term rental business and you need some help with that, check in with me, send me a Facebook Messenger, and we'll get on the phone and see if you're getting ready to get aggressive or not. So look forward to seeing everybody next week. And thanks again, Ashley. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for jumping on the B&B Investing Podcast this week. Please click on the subscribe and like button below. For more trainings, property tours, and content, you can join my B&B Investing Facebook group by clicking below. If you are ready to grow your short-term rental portfolio and maximize your monthly income, you can click on the link below to schedule a quick strategy call with Rich or someone from his team to see how we can help or point you in the right direction. Stay tuned for our next episode and hope to see you on the B&B Investing Group podcast.